If you are at all in the NBA online space, you may have seen a little while ago that some players were getting some outrageous nicknames. People are coming up with all sorts of stuff. I think it started with Jason Tatum, who was the anomaly, and then it was Bam Adebayo, the onomatopoeia. It was the trolley problem. It was the paradox, the singularity. It was all sorts of outrageous names. Well, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring, if you will, and try to make some nicknames of my own. And perhaps the guy who inspired this video, Larry Markkinen. Now, Larry Markkinen has a bit of a disconnect between maybe how he looks, how he appears, and how he plays, right? He's this giant 7 footer, brolic, muscular, and he just launches threes, right? Well, I chose to hone in on that build part of it. I think this guy looks like a statue. I think this guy looks like a Greek figure cut from marble, a Greek legendary figure like Jason. Like Jason, he's a fighter, he's a military guy, right? He was doing, I believe this was the off season of 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong. He had some mandatory military service for his home country of Finland. Yeah, so it's just a funny name. Also, Jason maybe evokes for people around my age or perhaps even older. Evokes Jason Voorhees, and you could Jason Voorhees is a large, strong guy, so there's perhaps a little bit of that as well. The next guy, Tyrese Halliburton. This one's a bit of a sophisticated name. I'm really proud of it. Delta T. Of course, the T is Tyrese Halliburton. The T, Tyrese, but also Delta, which is the Greek letter D. It's their equivalent. But also in the world of science, it means difference. And T, time. So this guy's the time difference. If the name Time Lord wasn't taken, perhaps I would have ascribed that to Tyrese Halliburton. But the way this guy plays versus the way that many other players play, or many other point guards specifically, the way he's able to control time, specifically with ludicrous pace, right? You look at some of the pace of, no pun intended, I guess, because they are the Pacers, but the pace that some of the Indiana Pacers teams have played at relative to other teams in the league, it is mind blowing. And he and that team are able to just run teams down and kind of beat them over the head a little bit just by exhausting them. So Delta T, time difference. You know, I think that I'm kind of proud of this one, though it is maybe a little bit nerdy. Paolo Boncaro. See, this name, I was actually trying to come up with a name for Tristan da Silva, because I'm tending to do these younger players because they don't have established names or established nicknames that have really caught on or anything like that. However, Paolo Boncaro, when I was looking at his basketball reference page for other potential nicknames, I noticed something. His middle name is Napoleon, which I think is very funny. And so I decided the Emperor. That's a cool name. He is this um, formidable or foreboding, I guess, kind of character, right? He's the challenges. He's able to take on kind of whole teams at once. He sort of backpacks the Orlando Magic in a lot of circumstances. So I feel like the Emperor tying into Napoleon and Emperor Napoleon and the way he kind of took on all of Europe, all of Europe at once. I feel like this is kind of perhaps a name that is a little bit more obscure as to why he's called that, but I could imagine this one being a thing that announcers are calling out mid game. Also, Palobon Conquer. That was another name I was considering. That was a little much. Adem Bona. So not all just stars in this video. This is a this one's a little bit silly. This is more of a play style one. He's this big 7 footer, strong, just muscles guys around. I call him the Ruckus. Um, I don't know if this dude actually yells a lot, particularly much, or if he's particularly a loud person. But he's a giant guy, so maybe. Um, yeah, this is a sort of name that you could give to really any um, strong play finisher. But I feel like Adem Bona is probably the most fitting candidate on that team. Cam Thomas, this is the guy who got the nickname the Singularity, which I do appreciate. I do think that's a pretty hilarious name. Um, but I had to get a new nickname. I had to come up with something different. So Cam the Conqueror is no Cam the Cannon. That's what it is. Um, Based on nothing other than the fact that he is launching it. He's launching the ball. He's a shooter. Um, that's really it. I love Cam Thomas, and I think I was trying to come up with something maybe 24 hours of the day, but I was like, no, the Cannon, Cam the Cannon, Cameron the Cannon. I don't know. I think it's a funny name, better than CT24, which is what has been I've seen a bunch. Ahmed Thompson. So this guy, starting off, already has a crazy name, right? Amen is an Egyptian god. So where do you go from there? Well, I chose the god of air because that literally is what Amen or Amun, Amun, I've seen it spelled as well, is. That's what that deity is. He's the god of air. How fitting for a guy that has like a 50-inch vertical, right? And who's, I mean, I swear, 70% of this guy's baskets scored are he's doing stuff like this, right? So yeah, he's got a brother who may or may not be coming up pretty soon. We'll see about that one. The Sacramento Kings. So this is a bit of an older player for this video, but this is what I've always called him, and I don't see anybody else really call him that, and that is Big Red. He's got red hair, and he's a big guy. He's 6'10". It's not as big as his dad, who I think was 7'3" or something like that. Like, oh my god, could you imagine a guy? Could you imagine Demonis Sabonis if he was 7'3"? Oh my god, that would be filthy. But anyways, Big Red. Yep, he's big. He's red. Also, side note: whenever I think of Demonis Sabonis, it reminds me of the fact that I believe rebounding, especially defensive rebounding, as a player stat, is something that is criminally discounted. People do not tend to pay attention to that, and I feel like that is something which separates Demonis Sabonis from a lot of other players, specifically a lot of other players defensively that are his size, roughly in that power forward or small center kind of range, and he's able to rebound like crazy. He's been among the leaders in the league for the last couple of years. So Anthony Towns, when he moved to New York, got a couple of nicknames. The Big Purr, Bodega Cat, and there might have been some other ones as well. Well, I decided to go with the Axe, and this is really a name that you can give to any kind of big play finisher. You can like Kristaps Porzingis or Larry Markkinen even. Uh, Given that he lives in Finland in the woods and stuff, like yeah, that would maybe make sense too. But I feel like Karl Anthony Towns, just especially this year where he's been maybe a little bit more relaxed on the 3 pointers and it focuses a bit more on his actual center duties of just dunking on people's heads. I feel like this is a pretty good name. Also, I feel like the axe is evocative of this whole being sharp shooting, cutting people down, cutting leads, with big threes like Chris Paul. I feel like that kind of name fits. So the axe is what I'm proposing for Karl Anthony Towns. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Um, this one's admittedly a little bit dumb. This one is Canada's finest, and that is reference to two things. One, the fact that he is Canadian. Um, Canadian point guards tend, there's been a bit of a tradition there, I suppose. But also, he's just a very handsome man. At least that is the reputation that he has. The whole Aura Man thing. So I'm going to be nice to him and not do anything free throw related or merchant related or whatever. So Canada's finest, and he's also going to win MVP this year, which has not happened when I'm recording this video. Uh, so for the Warriors, there's a bit of a tough decision I have to make because that team is full of old heads, right? Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry. These are all guys that have been around the block for a long time and have a lot of nicknames. So I decided to go with one of their younger guys, but I don't want to choose. And you may have noticed this. I don't want to choose like bums, right? Because I don't want to choose guys that I'm going to, try and advocate for these nicknames for, and then they're at the league, or they don't, I can't see their play style because they don't play any minutes, and it's like, how am I going to make a guess about their nickname, right? Or how am I going to come up with something interesting to say? But Quentin Post has been a bit of a shining spot. He was rookie in this year, and he is a natty 7-footer. He's actually 7 feet tall, and he is lights out from three. He shoots like 40% or something. He might be the top 3 point shooting center behind Kristaps Porzingis and Karl Anthony Towns. So I went with sniper post, maybe just the sniper. I was thinking all sorts. I was thinking like the American Sniper or whatever. But I feel like Sniper Post, Post is already part of his name. People kind of like when you do that, right? You make the nickname part of their actual name. So there you go, Sniper Post, Quinton Post. Probably the most anybody's ever talked about Quinton Post in a YouTube video. Evan Mobley, as a stark contrast to the last guy, a pretty bona fide superstar for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I went with the Mountain, and this is a name which a lot of guys get, but I haven't ever really seen ascribed to Evan Mobley. Maybe because he's not like a true center. He's like 6'10". He's not like ginormous. I know a lot of other guys they get the name because they're just really big and really heavy too a lot of the time, and Evan Mobley's not that heavy, but just the sheer presence he has under and around the rim is enough for me to call him a mountain. Mount Mobley, which does come with the unfortunate opposite of that is when he gets dunked on. Say, oh, he ascended Mount Mobley for the dunk, but I don't know. He is so good defensively that I feel like, and he is so unmovable defensively, right? He a lot of that traditional just up and down, right? Not hunting block, not acrobatic, exactly kind of swats and stuff like that, but just suffocating, stifling, right? That's the kind of association I have with Evan Mobley, and thus I call him the Mountain. Uh, the Celtics are another team where it's hard to find a player that doesn't have kind of already established nicknames. Obviously, we have Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, who don't really go by any nicknames, at least any that are terribly popular. We have, I guess, Tingus Pingus is perhaps, or the Unicorn is definitely the more official nickname of Kristaps Porzingis. Drew Holiday doesn't really have one. Derek White, I couldn't really come up with anything for. These are all kind of older players, so I decided to choose a younger player on that team, Sam Hauser. This might be the dumbest nickname on here. Bet the House. This is like a glowing praise for a guy that's maybe like the eighth man on his team, but I don't know. I mean, he's players that are very consistent or very good at shooting. People have this reputation of or players that are really good at shooting. People have this reputation of they are really consistent, right? Because they kind of do one thing and do one thing very well, and so therefore bet the house on Hauser. On the over on the threes, or in clutch time, right? Is he gonna make a three, or is he gonna swing? He's gonna shoot it, right? And that's kind of the idea. Miami Heat, another team that is surprisingly hard to come up with anything interesting to say about any of the players that hasn't been said before. So I went with, I believe it's Khalil Ware is how you pronounce him, although I've seen people pronounce it Khalil as well. Um, oh shit, I forgot what this was until I clicked that play. Yeah, WarioWare. I've internally and externally called this dude WarioWare since I even heard his name before the draft or whatever. Also, maybe fitting a little bit because there's another famous player or famous well-known player for this team named Mario Chalmers, and he's a little point guard. This guy's a big center. Mario. I feel like it kind of fits. I don't know. I'm not calling him a garlic breath guy, but I feel like it could work. Uh, Alex Starr. This is probably perhaps the only negative nickname on the entire list. Unconditional surrender. That is, of course, a reference to one him being French, which there's this whole joke about the French surrendering in wars because of World War I and World War II, but also this team, the only team he's ever played on in the NBA, was atrocious and surrendered so many NBA games and lost by so many points. So you can imagine though that when he's a better player, when he doesn't have a below 50% effective field goal percentage as a 7 footer, and also when he's on better teams and stuff like that, this name will also be the opposite, right? It'll evoke the other team is going to want to surrender because watch out, Alex Sarr is going to dunk on your head, or maybe he shoots hook shots in the future, and that's really cool. So yeah, unconditional surrender. This one, of course, is not never going to be never going to be used positively. I just thought it was funny. Um, The Bulls have not very many permanent guys, so I chose someone that I'm pretty sure is going to get a big extension pretty soon, or big new contract. That is Josh Giddey. I chose to be nice with this one. There's probably a lot of very negative nicknames you could come up with, and I chose G Shock mainly because his play style is so, you could say, so shocking. So erratic or so kind of crazy. Hence the shock. If you don't know, a G Shock is a brand, or perhaps just a line of watches, and there's a little bit of that clutch time kind of thing. I don't know. I That's why I chose this picture here. Also, because that was a very shocking way to win the game. Zachary Risachet, that is the number one pick, as opposed to Alex R's number two pick of this year. I again chose to be nice. This guy, I call him Future, and there's a couple. This one's a little bit multifaceted, and that is one, he plays in Atlanta, where the rapper Future is from. Two, or I don't know about from, but like I don't know, people associate him with Atlanta. And two, this guy, you could call him the blueprint, though Kevin Durant was doing what he was doing, like almost 20 years ago. So I feel like he is if Kevin Durant is the blueprint, right, of what small forwards, scoring first small forwards, or scoring focused small forwards are doing in the NBA, this guy is the future, right? I have a lot of stock in him. I have a lot of stock in Zachary Shea. I think he's going to be really good in, like, if not a year, maybe like 2 years. Once he is able to kind of once he figures out how to get to his spots, and once he figures out how to really make something of the fact that he's super athletic, super focused on the court, right? He does what he does, right? Not very many just throw the ball out of bounds, or quickly get rid of the ball because I'm not in my spot or something like that. And three, this guy's length is crazy. His wingspan is ridiculous. I couldn't find any pictures. I don't know why, of him doing the thing where he holds out the two basketballs in both of his hands. Maybe he can't palm a basketball because he has small hands or something. But the actual length of his arms is absurd. So if he can, like Kevin Durant, be a pretty good defender because of that in the future, this guy might be the future. The Charlotte Hornets, hard because not very many players on that team are, one, going to be on that team for very long, but two, probably going to be in the NBA for very long. So I went with a guy who I'm pretty sure will be both of those, and that is LaMelo Ball. This one is a reference to his old jersey number one, the chosen one, because he's LeVar Ball, right? His father talked about him. Said he was the best. Um, I don't know. This nickname is kind of dumb. I don't know if it really works, but I was just like, yeah, that's an epic name, I guess. I don't know. He's exciting, and the chosen one is a very exciting title. I believe they gave that title and that nickname to LeBron some 20 years ago. So maybe he's the new version of LeBron. Doubtful, but Andre Jackson Jr. Again, not all stars in this video, but he's I believe, second year player for the Bucks. And this is Asthma Jackson. I tried to do a bit of a Magic Johnson. Again, the name is part of the nickname is part of his name, right? It's just his first name. And this is for basically one reason only. This guy is crazy athletic. I was looking at some of the combine stats, and he's like at the top of like all the combine stats in his draft class. And he was in the dunk contest, in which he didn't do very well. But yeah, I feel like this is like a name where you can imagine Bleacher Report or House of Highlights or something, kind of posting this, as a caption of some crazy highlight that he gets. A lot of players I could be very mean to on this team, but I chose to be nice to a young player, even though I don't think he's very good. So Alsar Thompson. Man, Thompson was all the way at the start of the video. Alsar Thompson. Am I going to do another god of something? Well, not quite. I went with the Crook. Again, this one's multifaceted. This is probably the more obvious and more face value one. This guy, the number of steals this guy gets is really high. He's averaging as a kind of a second year player, but also kind of a first year player. He's averaging nearly 2 steals a game, which is kind of bonkers. But two, and this is kind of where I thought of it in the first place, just happened to fit. Alsar, I don't know in the context in which the name changed, but that is Osiris, and Osiris is this kind of mummy god character in Egyptian mythology, and he's well associated with having this crook. So the crook, Osiris, the crook, Osiris is his name, but also he gets a lot of steals on the court, and that's never going to go away. His defense is always going to be, in my opinion, the most notable thing about him, besides perhaps his athleticism. So yeah, that's kind of the logic of that name there. I could see this one, transcending a little bit and being a popular title for Suffix. Asar the Crook, Crook Thompson. Nah, probably not that one. Lakers. It's hard to come up with nicknames because they're the Lakers, right? They're always in the media. People are always talking about them. People are always trying to work on new names. Hillbilly Kobe is one of the two names that's not just his initials, AR-15, right? That is kind of popular. So I had to go with a new direction. I'm calling him the Saw because he's from Arkansas and because he's a surprisingly good slasher or cutter. So that's the name there. If you're wondering about this photo in the bottom right, I have zero clue why this was posted by Clutch Points. I mean, I can't even imagine the context in which this photo would be made. But if you're wondering, he did not actually dunk on Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal, as far as I'm aware. The New Orleans Pelicans. How many players on this team are going to be in the NBA in 3 years? It's kind of a hard question. One guy I'm very confident that will be a bit, follows in the trends of the game. I'd say is Trey Murphy. Crazy talented play finisher, but also as a passer too. Um, uh, this is by far the nerdiest nickname on here. Trey Thunder or Thunder Murphy, something like that. And this is purely based off the fact that if you take his initials TM and his jersey number TM25 in the original Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue or Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green, that is the move Thunder. That is a TM for the move Thunder. The technical machine for the move Thunder. I don't know. I think it works. He doesn't play for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but his I'd say there's a bit of this flash to his kind of game, right? Especially his 3-point shooting. So I'd say this could be maybe a not so nerdy corollary or connection as well. Uh, Again, hard. This is a team that won an NBA championship not too long ago. Christian Brown is perhaps the only player that is kind of ascended that wasn't very well known by that point in time, and so that's why I chose him. Uh, Christian Brown. If you shorten his first name, that is Chris Brown, though nobody calls him that. That is technically a way to say his name. And Chris Brown is known as Breezy. Also, Breezy, this whole kind of evoking air and wind and stuff like that. And this guy, for being, I think maybe 6'4", 6'4" shooting guard, he can jump like crazy. The number of absolutely insane dunks this guy has for both the year that he came into the league, and just how few years he's been in the league, how young he is, but also just the athleticism, the raw athleticism is they're both crazy. So Chris Breezy, or Christian Breezy, or Breezy Brown, or um, um, CB0 or whatever. I don't know. This one is I like Chris Brown, so Christian Brown, so that's why I chose him. I do not like Chris Brown the rapper. Uh, to make it clear, I think Chris Brown the rapper is not a good person, whereas Christian Brown, I have no reason to think that he's not a good person. Zach Edey, again, just kind of choosing the youngest players on teams tends to be a pretty good avenue for coming up with names. This one is, he's a player that has been well known for a long time. So you would think, given that, there'd be a lot of kind of nicknames that people have come up with this guy, but really not so much. So I took a stab at it. Called him the Ogre, and that's not because he's particularly ugly or anything. I think he's relatively normal looking for a 7'4" person. But uh, one, he has a crazy deep voice, which again maybe you'd expect for a guy at 7'4". But two, he's also just again his standing presence around the rim on both ends is insane. And I feel like people would be scared of this guy, like they would be scared of an ogre on account of his physical stature. And I believe this is the last one in the video. No, it's not the last one in the video. I know that. There's one more after this. Jaden McDaniels again. This team is kind of older. There's a lot of guys that already have pretty well established names. You know, the Stifle Tower or Ant Man, right? You know, there's all these names. So I took a guy that people or Null. That's another one for Nikhil Alexander Walker. Jaden McDaniels. This one, I don't know why this one calls to me. Plan A. I guess because this guy is. I was surprised. This guy is started every single game this season. He played 82 games, which is both impressive and also something that's noteworthy, right? And so he literally is the plan A, right? He has been what they have started every single game. And he has a number of other seasons where he started a very similar amount of games, though slightly less than 82. Um, and also, there's another guy on this team where Plan B is perhaps a bit relevant. I'm not going to get into that one. I guess if you know, you know. But yeah, Plan A is the good version of that that other player. Good as in Marley good. I don't think he's Derek Lively. I guess there's more than one after this because I know this isn't the last one either. Derek Lively. This is again just choosing a young, good player, right? I believe this guy was close to rookie of the year, close in rookie of the year voting. I think he was like top five or something like that last year when they went on that finals run. He was pretty important throughout the regular season. Um, Now this one, I'm so surprised. I've never seen this before. So Duke Deuce is a music artist from I think Memphis, right? Somewhere in the South. This guy plays in the South. This guy went to Duke, was drafted out of Duke, and when players are a junior or are the second, right? Derek Lively, the second. Um, they are called Deuce. That is a common nickname for people that are like that. This guy is literally Duke Deuce. Now the only thing is that his number isn't two, but other than that, I mean, this is a perfect name. I feel like everyone should be calling Derek Lively Duke Deuce because that is a great name. Oh geez, more than I thought. Oso Igudoro again. Not everyone's a star. Not everyone's a super standout player, or whatever. But I feel like this guy's nickname is based on a combination of a lot of things: his draft expectations, um, and also his physical feats and physical accomplishments as well. Um, so Igudoro is one of the most athletic players in the entire NBA, like sneakily, I guess. But also he was, I believe, he was like the 50th pick, somewhere around there, somewhere in the late in the second round, and that is where the name comes into play. He's a pure upside pick on his physical abilities. And he's still very young. He could still be a very, very useful player, or maybe even transcend kind of what he's projected to be. I think he's probably already outplayed most 50th picks in the NBA. So yeah, that's kind of where this name comes from. Oso Igudoro, the upside. You can imagine a newspaper kind of referring to him in this way. It's a bit of an old timey kind of name. How many names does Victor Wembanyama have? He's Vic. He's the alien. That's another player I've seen referred to as the future. No surprise, he's super tall and super skinny and can shoot. Right, that's kind of can dribble as well. What can Victor Wembanyama do? This one, this is if the way, Aliens, the Eraser, that, okay, let me not be so elitist about that. There is an album called The Arrival by Hypocrisy. It's a metal album from a couple of years ago. I said a long time ago. And this is probably the most popular song on there, The Eraser. But in a non super contrived, reference, also he erases possessions straight up. I have this I had to move the pictures around just to get it in frame of how physically ridiculous Victor Wembanyama is. Like, look at this block. Like, I don't know exactly what this picture is from, but like that's Jock Landale on the Houston Rockets. So it couldn't have been that long ago. And this is insane. Like, I mean, it cannot be overstated the ways in which Victor Wembanyama is ridiculous. And I feel like the eraser really emphasizes his ability to just shut things down in certain contexts, right? either with blocks or just people not attempting shots on him, right? A bit of a la Rudy Gobert, right, where he's such a good rim defender, people just don't attempt shots at the rim for him when he's nearby. Just erases possessions, erases attempts. Emmanuel Quickly, kind of hard to find players on the Toronto Raptors that are really, well, I'll say, really worth a damn, right? But Emmanuel quickly, acquired from New York a couple of years ago, is a standout, and this is the name, Quicksilver. A lot of names, a lot of ways you can go with being a super fast, super athletic point guard, and having quick in your name, right? You know, Nick the Quick, Nick Van Exel was Nick the Quick, so this guy can't be anything the Quick. So I went with Quicksilver mainly because this evokes to me this kind of crazy lateral movement, this crazy, it's maybe not jumping super high, right? When it comes to, but first step ability, right? Quicksilver, flows quickly. That's the Mercury. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. But yeah, that's based on his last name, but also based on his physical talents and based on kind of his mode of play as well. Quicksilver. I wouldn't be surprised if this exists already. I didn't research, besides going on Basketball Reference, I didn't research if anybody else is called Emmanuel Quicksilver. So if they have, just know that I agree with them. Donovan Clingan. Uh, this guy was drafted out of UConn, I believe, or I know. I think it was a fourth year, if I recall correctly, or fifth year. I think he was a senior, regardless. And he's much like Zach Edey, actually drafted old and just has a crazy physical stature. I think he's like 7'2", probably in the mid 200s, but maybe even like on the later end of that, right? That's similar to Walker Kessler as well. No, yes, Walker Kessler. Sorry, I get him confused with Kessler Edwards, who was a completely different player. Anyways, enough talking about where this guy came from. This is such a bad picture. I'm so sorry, Dominic Clayton. I just wanted to get pictures where it showed like their whole face and like maybe like a bit of their headshot as well, but also them like in game a lot of the time. So this is just represents him well, I suppose, because he is a guy that is unassuming from the head up. Mount Doom, yeah. Again, this is the whole mountain thing, right? It's a giant player who is really formidable, standing underneath the rim. Uh, Mainly on the defensive end, this one applies to. But yeah, I think this is one where it's like you go on Basketball Reference and it'd be like, who has ever called him that? Well, right here you can source this video if the Basketball Reference guys that manage that page need a source for where this nickname came from. Right here. I believe this is the last one of the video. And this is for Ivica Zubac. So, or Ivica Zubac, I believe is how you pronounce it. And this is a nickname, or this is a player who has a lot of nicknames, mainly because Zubats is such a unique kind of name. A lot of people call him Big Zoo or just Zoo, or something like that. Well, I decided to go with a different angle. Um, Zoo Beast is the initial name that I came up with, and this is in part, this is both the way his play style, right, is very, very physical, very aggressive on both ends. I'd really say, not known to be a terribly patient player or something like that, or he spends all his time around like attacking the rim or on the opposite, hunting blocks, right? So Zoo Beast, well, the Beast is a reference both to that and to the fact that he is Bosnian. He's of Bosnian origin. He might play for the national team as well. Um, and there is another player who has a nickname related to Beast, the only one I can think of, and that is the Bosnian Beast, who is Yusuf Nurkic. So there's a bit of a connection there. Bosnians, they're just the beasts, I guess. It's a bit of an alliteration kind of thing. So yeah, that is the last nickname I have. Let me know if you like any of these, especially. Let me know if you kind of thought of any of these independently, or you have any ideas. Especially, yeah, actually, if you have any ideas for nicknames for any of these players, at least, drop them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm realizing this video is quite long, as a lot of my videos of this style tend to be. Not very TikTok friendly, but we're on YouTube, right? One more time, thank you all for watching. I will be uploading some more NBA videos in the future, probably later into the playoffs as well. Subscribe if you want to, and give this video a like if you did.